Good afternoon, everybody. Jump on Martin the Metalhead here. Hope you're going well. Still in Aktau after a couple of days. Can't wait to leave it in a few days' time and go on to the Caucasus, where another leg of my overlanding travel begins. Many years ago in America, I didn't do much overlanding travel. I took a bus from Toronto all the way to New York City, and that was the only overlanding trip I ever did. I lived in Australia for many years, and I took a train from Sydney to Melbourne a few times, or Sydney to Canberra, and that was pretty much about it in my Australian life. I've always been a person who wants to travel overland. I'll do it not just for the environment, but for the fun of it. You know, I can't really stand, having to go to airports, go through security, wait in line, get on planes, fly over land that I'm missing out on, and just arriving at another destination. I couldn't care how long it takes. One of my first overland trips I ever did was I went from London all the way to San Marino without flying in a space for like 6 days. And then I also went from Barcelona up to Andorra, and then from Malaga all the way down to Morocco in Tangier. A year later, I took a bus from London to Frankfurt, and then a train to Hamburg, and then I took another train from Istanbul all the way to Tehran on the Transocean Express. The following year, I spent a whole week going from London all the way to Istanbul without flying. I've gone up and down the Malay Peninsula many times. In 2016, I went from Kuala Lumpur all the way to like 4 different Southeast Asian nations without flying, crossing all the land borders. And then I did my biggest trip was going from Vladivostok to London in 3 weeks and 2 days. That was the end of 2016, and I haven't really gone on a really longer trip like that since. I went from Cancun, Mexico to Costa Rica in a period of 11 days, I believe. That was 2018. Also in that year, I went from Yas to Moldova to Ukraine, and then from Ukraine all the way back to the UK through Czechoslovakia, Germany, Netherlands, Belgium, France. So that was quite a long overlanding trip. Another good overlanding trip I've done is I've been to all 3 of the Caucasus nations, all overlanding through Georgia. In South America, I've always traveled overland from the French colony of French Guiana to Suriname, Guyana, and Brazil. In the Balkans, I've traveled a lot by land, like from Croatia all the way to North Macedonia. I want to say the right country, not Macedonia, it's North Macedonia. I want to impress the Greeks on this one. Oh yes. Then the biggest overlanding trip I did, which was roughly the same time length as my Vladivostok trip. It was basically, I went to every country that borders South Africa except for Mozambique in a period of like 3 weeks and a couple of days, starting off in Johannesburg, going down to Lesotho, east to Pietermaritzburg and Durban, up to Eswatini, back to Joburg. 18 hours on a bus from Joburg to Cape Town. God, I wish I'd fixed up their trains. Then there was from Cape Town all the way to Windhoek. I went all the way to the Kaveri Strip to get into Botswana, into Kasane, where 4 countries meet, and then through up to Livingstone, down Victoria Falls and through Bait Bridge back to Johannesburg to Pretoria. So that was quite a good round trip in South Africa, or Southern Africa I should say. Yeah. But then recently I was so proud that I went from Kyrgyzstan all through Uzbekistan and to Aktau. My next trip that I plan to do is basically I want to go from Azerbaijan all the way to Iraq in a period of, well, less than a week. My only concerns is basically when I go up to Cuba, I basically have to backtrack to Baku to get to Sheki, then to get across the border to Georgia. But I reckon I could probably get from Azerbaijan through to Georgia into Turkey in roughly 2 days. I knew a friend of mine who got from the Georgian border crossing to the Iraq border in also 2 days, so anything is possible when you put your mind to it. Yeah. And also, I've travelled, to all the home nations of Great Britain apart from Northern Ireland by land. I've taken buses up to Scotland, buses to Wales, took a ferry over to Dublin, Republic of Ireland, from Holyhead. Still haven't gone to Northern Ireland yet. Really want to go there, or as a matter of fact, move there. Yeah. My biggest trip that I really want to do is going from Morocco all the way to Ghana, flying all through so many different African nations. I really got to build up my bank balance to do something like that in a short period of time. But then again, I could do spontaneous trips to a couple of different Middle Eastern countries. But it all depends on my budget and all. I mean, I could never want to go on holiday to Dubai. I was in Abu Dhabi a few weeks ago, and I was just so glad I just didn't leave the airport. It was just really too hot for me, and it's always expensive. Apart from, I wouldn't say the airport stuff was expensive. I mean, I was paying like £1 for a cup of cardamom coffee. That was reasonably priced, I guess, but the difference. Anyway, I'm on the Metalhead. I'm over now.